Ladies and gentlemen, the Jones family has absolutely no excuse to make the moves this offseason to convince fans before the season starts that they're truly all in. We just got some major news as it pertains to the Dallas Cowboys free agency, and this news is going to affect how aggressive they can be in free agency, even with the looming Dak Prescott contract extension, in which a lot of you guys are under the impression for some reason that he's going to take up all of the salary cap if we re-sign him, which is completely false. The Cowboys could put themselves in position to have some of the most salary cap space out of any team in the National Football League. Let's go ahead and dive into everything that you need to know about the Dallas Cowboys upcoming free agency and clear up any misnomers as it pertains to salary cap preventing us from being able to be aggressive. All right, so you can see here the NFL announced an unprecedented salary cap spike of over $30 million per team. This means that the Cowboys going into this offseason are going to have $30 million more in salary cap than they would have thought. This is roughly about $17 million more or $13 million more than what they were expected the salary cap to raise to. So this actually frees up enough salary cap space to where they will be able to sign essentially another really good player, just to kind of give you an idea of how much of an increase that they got over what was expected for the salary cap, right? But we ain't gonna get too lost in all that. We want to know, how does this affect our team? And that's what we're going to take a look at right here. Now, the way this is going to affect our team directly is once Dak Prescott is extended, the Cowboys will immediately have about $25 million to work with in salary cap space going into free agency. Again, that's with the $30 million salary cap raise, and that's if they actually extend Dak Prescott. Right now, the Cowboys are in the red, but if they went ahead and restructured Trayvon Diggs, which is expected that they're going to do, if they restructure his contract, they can get out of the red, and then the Dak Prescott contract extension could get us $25 million in salary cap space, and that by itself is honestly enough to go get someone like a Danielle Hunter on the open market, or a really good top-rated player in free agency to get a big name instead of just a whole bunch of small guys that are just going to be rotational pieces, right? But there's a lot more the Cowboys can actually do, and a lot more cap space they can free up by making more moves. They can get up to $40 million in cap space once they go ahead and get the extension done with CeeDee Lamb this offseason as well, which is also expected. Dak and CeeDee Lamb are 100% expected to get their extensions this offseason, right? So this is before they cut anybody, extend anybody else, which they're expected to do. And I'm about to take a look at a couple more moves that they can do, courtesy of Martin Talk Cowboys, right? But this is before they do any of that. They can have $40 million in salary cap space going into free agency, which would be enough. If we took a look at this graph, $40 million in cap space would put them squarely in the top 10 of NFL teams in salary cap space for this offseason, which means they could be competitive with the best of them outside of some of the really bad teams like the Patriots, Bears, Commanders, stuff. Those teams like that, they have a ton of cap space, but that doesn't necessarily mean a lot of players that are trying to win are going to go there. But the Cowboys having $40 million would place them right ahead of the Panthers as far as salary cap space going into free agency this offseason, and there's more that they can do. To me, this is why it's so ridiculous that the Cowboys are playing these games with Dak and just partaking in this ridiculous media charade that they're not going to pay these guys. Just pay these dudes so that way you can get to business, because there's so much more salary cap that you're going to have. There would be literally no excuse. You getting an extra $5 million from Dak is not going to change what you're going to have in the big picture salary cap wise. I'm telling you right now. Let's take a look at this, right? So the estimated cap space that the Cowboys can free up with these corresponding moves are as follows. Dak Prescott contract extension, they can free up roughly about $26 million in cap space. The CeeDee Lamb contract extension, $14 million. That gets you that $40 million number that we were talking about earlier. If they were to extend Micah, that would give them an extra $1.5 million roughly. Not a lot, but it's something. A DeMarcus Lawrence contract extension, if they were to give him like an extra year or something, they can get $7 million more in relief in cap space. Brandon Cooks contract extension, if they give him another year, $5.4 million in relief in cap space. If they were to restructure Zach Martin, they can get an extra $12.6 million. If they restructure Trevon Diggs, they can get $7.9 million. A Terrence Steele restructure, $4.9 million. Donovan Wilson restructure, $2.9 million. If they cut Michael Gallup post June 1st, that'll free up $9.5 million and give us $4.5 million worth of dead money across his remaining 3 years on that contract. If they were to trade Trey Lance, which I don't even know why they got Trey Lance in the first place, that would free up $5.3 million, which they're going to have to either trade him or give him another contract at some point, because both he and Cooper Rush, there's no sense in carrying both of those guys and putting that much money into your backup position on the team. So before all those moves, they were $21.5 million over the salary cap. After all those moves, and with the new salary cap that the league is getting with $255 million roughly, the Cowboys could be at about $80 million under the cap going into this free agency, guys. Do not let anybody convince you that them paying Dak Prescott is going to put the Cowboys in a position where they cannot be aggressive in free agency. That is just not true. It is not factual. It is a lie. And you can check all of these numbers for yourself if you understand how to manipulate these numbers using different websites that show the value of these players, and they'll show their market value, their 2023 averages, and you can play with these numbers and actually see exactly how these things are calculated, right? There's different websites you can use. I'm not gonna drop all the sauce on y'all. Y'all gotta do a little bit of research yourself, right? But either way, that leads us to ask these questions. If they have $81 million in cap space, what is it that they are potentially going to do with said cap space? This is after making all those big moves, extending all your guys, and you still have $81 million left before going into free agency. What do you do? Well, really not before going to free agency, because some of that frees up at the post-June 1 cut. But most of that, $70 million roughly, you're going into free agency with. What do you do with that when you have all of these unrestricted free agents on your roster? Which one of these guys do you guys want to bring back? Let me know down in the comments below. We have Tyron Smith as an unrestricted free agent, Tony Pollard, Stephon Gilmore, Dorrance Armstrong, Jaron Kearse, Jordan Lewis, Dante Fowler, Noah Igbenini, Jonathan Hankins, Trent Sieg, Chuma Edoga, Neville Gallimore, Rico Dowdle, and Tyler Biadasz. I can tell you right now, out of all of these players that I just named, there's probably only about 3 or 4 of those players the Cowboys are going to seriously consider bringing back, especially with a new defensive coordinator in town. He's going to want a lot of the type of guys that he wants on this roster. So it's going to be a lot of casualties as far as just the transition, right? But Tyron Smith, he wants to play another year. He wants to play with the Cowboys. More than likely, we're going to end up bringing Tyron Smith back. So we could just assume that he's probably going to get another deal similar to the one he had recently. And it's probably going to be a heavily incentive-based contract. I wouldn't expect that one to take too much money off of the salary cap. But just based on market value with this website, it's expected he would take about $7.4 million off of the $70 million we'll be going into free agency with before the June 1st cuts and all that stuff, right? So he would take $7.4 million off of that. So you still have $63 million left to work with, right? Then we have Tony Pollard. I'm letting him walk, draft a younger guy. Stephon Gilmore. A lot of people are kind of on the fence about this move. If it makes sense money-wise, I wouldn't mind bringing Stephon Gilmore back. But with the recent releases of players like Xavier Howard and Jalen Johnson from the Bears potentially being on the market, it could be possible that it's better to invest your money in one of those younger guys rather than bring another year older Stephon Gilmore back. I really like him as a player, but realistically speaking, and just business-wise, they probably wouldn't be willing to spend too much money to try to bring Gilly back, but who knows? The Cowboys front office surprises us all the time. Dorrance Armstrong, he's probably going to get a lot of money somewhere else that the Cowboys are not going to be willing to pay. He's more than likely going to be walking. Plus, I have a sneaky suspicion that they're going to be looking at a specific defensive end in free agency that used to play under Mike Zimmer, and I think that he's more than likely going to be a Cowboy this offseason. But Jaron Kearse, I think you let him walk. Jordan Lewis is another very interesting player. Do you bring him back? Is he going to take roughly about $6 to $7 million off of your cap? Probably, if you were to bring him back. Let's say you do bring Jordan Lewis back. I know a lot of people like Jordan Lewis. Let's say you do bring Jordan Lewis back. Since you're letting Stephon Gilmore walk, you bring J. Lou back just for depth purposes to play that slot role, right? So $6-7 more million off the books. That still leaves you roughly about $55-56 million worth of cap space. Dante Fowler Jr., he's more than likely going to be gone. Noah Igbenegbu, he's more than likely going to be gone. Jonathan Hankins, he's probably going to be gone. Trent Sieg, Chuma Edoga, Neville Gallimore, Rico Dowdle, Tyler Biadasz, all of those guys more than likely going to be gone. So this leaves a lot of holes for the Dallas Cowboys. And some of the most likely players that the Cowboys could be bringing into the team based off of the new coaches that they have hired are going to want players that they liked to coach. All right, so a lot of these players that were drafted under Mike Zimmer, the Danielle Hunters of the world, it's very possible we see these guys come to Dallas, right? But either way, there's 8 defenders who played for Mike Zimmer and his new staffers that could be coming to Dallas. We're going to take a real quick look at this. This article was written by Katie Drummond, but we have number 12, edge rusher Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter has been a stud in the NFL. He had a very, very productive season last year, totaling 16.5 sacks in 2023. Really would like him to come to Dallas. That would allow Micah Parsons to come off the edge position, go back into that linebacker position, so he's not as affected by how the referees are calling the game and whether or not he's getting holding calls and all this other stuff, right? And all the double teams. I really like to see our best player come off the ball a little bit so that way he has a little bit more freedom on the field. It's possible we have defensive lineman Maurice Hurst come here. Hurst was an original Oakland Raiders draft pick, so he played for Paul Guenther in 2018. I'm okay with him, to be honest. I'm good with him. I would rather draft a young guy to kind of take up some depth, or let Mozzie just kind of get the snaps that this dude will be getting. I'm okay with this particular move. All right, number 99 edge, Carl Lawson. Lawson played for Jeff Zgonina in Cincy in 2017 and has 27 career sacks. He's a solid rotational defensive end who could fill the Dante Fowler role as depth on the cheap. I can definitely see something like this happening. That makes a ton of sense. Linebacker Nicholas Morrow. The Cowboys are going to need a ton of depth at linebacker, and Morrow is familiar with Guenther, playing for Oakland from 2017 through 2019. He started 29 games over the last 2 seasons between Chicago and Philadelphia. Can play all 3 downs, inside or outside. Is probably available for under $5 million a season. I'm good on this guy. I would much rather just keep Marquise Bell and Damone Clark before getting someone like Nicholas Morrow. I'm going to be completely honest. I seen him play in Philadelphia last season. I'm good. We got another edge rusher here / linebacker, DJ Wonnum. Wonnum has 8 sacks in 2 of the last 3 years and is a former 4th round pick of Mike Zimmer in 2020. He seems like a perfect replacement for Dorrance Armstrong, but is a straight line attacker at 6'5", 258 pounds. All right, so this could be your replacement for Dorrance Armstrong. I would not be surprised to see him come to the Cowboys at all. That kind of seems like a good call right there. Defensive tackle Solomon Thomas. Thomas was overdrafted by the 49ers in 2017, but that means Zgonina has a lot of insight into what the former first rounder is capable of as a cheap depth piece. Could be an interesting project type of defensive tackle player. Never know right there. Safety Harrison Smith. This one interests me a lot. I really like Harrison Smith as just a veteran presence and to add some maturity on that defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys. If he is a cap casualty for the Minnesota Vikings, I would love to see a player like Harrison Smith end up on the Cowboys roster, right? And then we have linebacker Eric Kendricks. Kendricks signed a 2-year deal in Los Angeles last year, but that regime has been ousted, and perhaps they might look to avoid his $5 million salary for the upcoming season. If so, Kendrick should be welcomed in Dallas to lead what will be a revamped linebacker core and help shorten the learning curve. Another of Zimmer's draft picks, the 9-year vet, plays middle linebacker despite the smaller frame and was a first-team All-Pro under Zimmer in 2019. So, out of this list, I'm looking at Eric Kendricks, maybe Harrison Smith, a Solomon Thomas, DJ Wonnum, and probably Danielle Hunter as the most likely candidates off of this list to be coming to Dallas. And if we were to get all those players, guys, even with those dudes right there, that's only taking up probably about half of what your projected salary cap space is going to be based off of all the moves the Cowboys could make. That's probably taking about 50 to 60% of your salary cap space. That still leaves a ton of room to try to go out and get a super talented linebacker or to get another piece to add to this team. So the moral of this video is the Cowboys are going to have plenty of cap space. Don't let them fool you into thinking that they're not going to have enough cap space if Dak Prescott takes too much of the pie. Again, don't get involved in trying to fight any of the Joneses' battles for them, guys. Stop doing that. It makes you look crazy, all right? I'm just saying it right now, all right? But either way, let me know what you think about all this down in the comments below. I'll see you guys on the next one. We still same old damn Cowboys.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Oh, shut up, my boy. Hey! I'm still them boys.